This episode of the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast is brought to you by Patreon and the Gentleman Scofflaw merchandise page. Go to gentlemanscofflaw.com. In the menu, click the support or shop links to help support the show.
You are listening to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Listener beware.
Rise and shine, the liquor store is open. I ain't got time for moping. I best be on my way. Well, I still got time to save my reputation. Time to go day drinking in this dirty little town.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast, the podcast for the rebel and the Renaissance man. I'm your host, Jordan Crowder, and with me in person, as usual, is the Don, Donovan Fowler.
Yo.
And all the way up in the Great White North is Johnny Boy. How you guys doing?
Hi.
I'm doing just fine.
I think we got that intro down now, right? I mean, in the beginning, it was hard to do in the earlier episodes.
Yeah, we were a little all over the place. You're the master of ceremonies. You nail it.
MC.
I still have trouble with it, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody cares what you think, John. You're in Canada.
You don't know how right you are.
Keep your mouth shut.
Canada is America's hat. All right, we'll
leave it at that.
Let's start off with a little bit of housekeeping. What do we got to drink there, Donovan?
All right, today we are drinking Stillhouse Original Moonshine, America's finest 100% corn whiskey.
Oh, nice.
Which comes in a lovely little, you can't call it a bottle because it's a can.
It looks like a gas can.
It looks like a paint thinning.
It looks like
thinner.
Paint thinner.
You could easily hide it in your garage during Prohibition and nobody would know.
Camping fuel.
This comes courtesy of Justin Hilden gave us this.
And, the biggest perk of corn whiskey is gluten-free.
Gluten-free? Oh, nice. Ooh. Good. All right, let's pour that. We got them in the Glencairn glasses. We're being fancy tonight. But what do you got there, John?
Coors Light.
Coors Light?
Fancy.
Let's taste this for a sec here. Because you know what? It almost smells like Scotch. Like there's a peaty, almost like a smokiness, kind of peatiness to it, right? Is that just me?
I don't know.
Let's drink that.
You know what it smells like to me? For some odd reason, Wonder Bread.
I don't know. You know what though?
I think I'm having a stroke.
I just sipped it and I get that in the taste. Wonder Bread. A little bit of Wonder Bread and a little bit of Scotch. It's good.
Mine tastes like Coors Light.
So, folks, if you like to soak your Wonder Bread in Scotch, you are in for a treat.
Way. It's kind of like, almost like, when you get like birthday cake flavored ice cream. It almost kind of feels like that a little bit.
It's got a nice, afterburn on the esophagus
and
going on.
Yeah, it's actually pretty smooth. And I am smoking my, what's the name of this company?
Dwarf pipe.
It's my little dwarf pipe. I can't remember the name of it. It's not 7Ellie. It's not Rossi. What is it? It's Baracchini. It's another town.
Baracchini.
And in it, I've got some leftover from last year, some pumpkin spice blend, which I don't remember who made it. But
how fortuitous.
Yeah, I know. Perfect for this month.
Yeah.
And later on the show, we're going to have our friend Jon Cipiti, director of the documentary film The Dating Project. Good friend of Donovan's, and I've known him for a couple of years.
Great guy.
Good guy. It'll be fun to talk to him about that. Very interesting subject matter, too, the movie. So
great guy and even better filmmaker.
I don't know if that says much about him, though.
You know what? No, play it back to me. I think I may have done him a disservice. I'll have to apologize to him.
What's going on in your guys' weeks, John?
I had an adventure this week.
Do tell.
I've been driving for almost 20 years, and I have never, ever picked up a hitchhiker until this week. I thought, this could go one of two ways. Either it's a pleasant ride, I drop them off down the road, and all is well. Or, we've all seen Joyride.
Yeah.
In America, we call
Candy cane.
Here in the United States, we call that Ubering.
No money was exchanged. So he gets in the car, and I said, okay, where are you going? He says, the main thoroughfare down the road. So we get there. He says, oh, no, drop me at the mall. So as we're driving, he says, you know what, drop me at the next mall. So I'm like, okay, no problem. And then I started thinking, this is getting a little weird. He keeps asking for more. And then when we get to the second mall, which is in a seedy part of town, he asked me for some money for the bus. And I said, sorry, I don't carry cash. I only carry my plastic. And he said, well, come in with me and buy me food. So I thought, this is the last time I do this. He didn't say thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
That's it. He didn't.
That's it.
If you give a mouse a ride,
that's exactly it.
Come back.
That's insane. I remember my dad always used to, in downtown Montreal, when somebody would want something, he wouldn't give them cash because he didn't want to support like a bad habit if that's what they needed. If they said they wanted food, he'd take them into whatever restaurant was nearby and they would get food. And I remember this one time when we were at Wendy's, this guy was asking for money. He's like, I don't have any cash, but you want to go inside and grab a Wendy's? And he's like, oh, really? Sure. And he went in and he was ordering off the menu, and he's like, so what do you want? And he's like, maybe a junior bacon cheeseburger. And he's like, yeah, okay, go, yeah, get that. He's like, can I get a combo? He's like, yeah, get a combo. Can I get a Frosty? That was like,
oh, poor guy.
But that was it. Like he was like, and he was like totally stoked and really thankful about it. But that was like his request was a combo and a Frosty.
Man, my guy sucked.
That's nice.
I will say this: he did have a very enlightening story about when he got arrested for kicking some pregnant woman in the stomach.
God.
That's what. Don't choke on your Evan Williams. So that's when I started contemplating tucking, ducking, and
Are you
rolling.
sure this wasn't Harvey Weinstein?
Oh no!
No, there weren't any house plants around.
2 weeks in a row, we talk about Harvey Weinstein.
Nobody else seems to be talking about it on late night, so we're gonna have to talk about it during the day.
Was he hitchhiking in a bathrobe and then offered you a massage?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I have to do a spit take on that one.
Right. How about you, Donovan? Anything happen in your week?
So one night I had a hankering for some Chinese food, which isn't a bad thing, but I decided to go get Panda Express, which isn't the best thing when you're looking to get good Chinese food.
Yeah. I mean, they have some fresh stuff though, if you know what you're looking for.
I don't know, man. Honestly, I had the worst. I'll follow up. That'll be the conclusion. So we're in the middle of the pavilions, and they have this food court with the Panda Express, and I'm kind of standing there and I'm looking around, and I see this guy walking. He's a tall guy, and I look at him and I'm like, he looks familiar. And he's kind of looking around almost like in a weird way, like, I hope nobody recognizes me.
Okay.
But I already recognized him as TV's Jason Segel from
No way.
How I Met Your Mother.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Muppets.
Muppets.
Whatever. Muppets movie.
Muppets. Lacey and I saw Jason Segel also at a Pavilions about 3 years ago.
That's what. Okay. Well, here's a question. Was he getting money out of the ATM?
No, he was buying wine, and
okay.
And Lacey kind of just, because we're huge How I Met Your Mother fans, she just kind of gave him a nod, and he's just like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was just like, I think just kind of used to people recognize him. He's like towering.
Yeah.
He's a huge tall guy.
Yeah.
And then I've seen him also once in Austin at the premiere of. He was walking down the streets. He was there for the premiere of Sarah Marshall years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like he looked around like he was getting money, and it was kind of bizarre. Like he looked around like he was like very self-conscious.
You think it was a drug habit? You think he was trying to get some ATM for some drugs?
That actually, I want to tell stories out of school, but that was my first thought. I was kind of like, why are you here in my neighborhood? No. Anyways, it was odd though. He walked around the store, like the perimeter of the store, didn't buy anything, and then walked out. But he was very it didn't look like he was in a hurry. So yeah, kind of weird. Anyways, and to cap it all off, I had the worst allergic reaction to that Panda Express I've like ever had to anything in my life. It was making me sneeze. Like you'd think it made me like puff up, but I was sneezing as well. It was really bizarre.
Did you have any like raw vegetables?
I had shellfish. I mean, I had the shrimp, but that's like that usually doesn't do anything.
Sometimes it could develop later in life. Like for me, I love apples, and I just had a crazy allergic reaction to one the other day. Yeah. And it's like a cross allergy, apparently.
Okay.
Where it's like your immune system interprets it as something else you're allergic to that's similar, and it's protein makeup or whatever.
So if they have an apple tree growing next to a house full of cats.
that would be it. That would be the end of me, John. If you wanted to take me out, you have, and now all of the listeners of the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast know how to kill Jordan Crowder.
Don't sit under the apple tree with
anyone but a cat.
Have you guys seen this? I just saw this in the news today. Sex robot molested at a tech fair.
Oh, geez.
Apparently, there was.
Oh man!
I don't know if this is going to make the final cut.
The worst thing.
The headline in the New York Post was "Sex robot heavily soiled by barbarians at tech fair."
Wait! Barbarians is in quotes. What's the?
He means some
who attributed that.
He means some animalistic people.
I would say animalistic nerds, bro.
Yeah. Well, it's like as if it's not creepy enough that somebody would be into one of these sex robots. They had to go ahead and try and mount one at a public tech fair.
Wait, where was okay? Where was this tech fair?
I guess it was at an Ars Electronica festival in the city of Linz,
Spain.
Which is Spain. Yeah, because the inventor's from Spain, I believe.
No, it wasn't in Spain. The company is based in Barcelona.
Is it? Okay. And he said that apparently the doll had broken fingers.
How do you break the fingers?
Heavily soiled.
What are you doing?
Heavily soiled, and he has to send it back to Barcelona for repair and cleaning. So
just burn the thing.
Get what you paid for.
Yeah, I mean, why even keep the thing around at that point, right? Am I right? I don't know.
Why?
Who wants a secondhand doll of that nature?
No, just even firsthand. Why?
I think it's the government's attempt to control people from ever having to leave the house.
Probably. We covered that one. I love the barbarians though. Like you think barbarians, you think like goths, like, Visigoths, Vandals, all those good guys. But in reality, this was just a lot of, tech virgins out there.
All right. Well, that's enough.
We're done.
All right. Let's go to a little segment we like to call
Listener Mail.
I don't know why I say we'd like to call. I mean, this is called that on every other show that does listener mail, right?
No, that's original.
It is?
We're the
it
first.
It is original? All right.
We should call it mail call.
Mail call.
Mail call.
Or
mail call.
Or what was the Camp Caribou in Canada? What did they have? Didn't they have a mail call? Was it? No, they had something like that. No trace. Did you watch Camp Caribou? You're a terrible Canadian.
I did. I even had, I think they released a comic book based on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, was Camp Caribou that, I'm not even going to try to remember this, but I think I saw it on American Nickelodeon at one point.
Yeah, it's, I don't know if maybe it played in the US, but it was just like a TV show about camping, and they had these two characters, two guys that would do all these crazy characters, and it was always about like being outdoors and stuff.
Never mind.
It was pretty serious, pretty silly.
Oh, I was thinking of Survivor.
Oh gosh, this is not that. All right, let's read that first. Oh, we got a message from Patreon. John, you want to read that first message from Patreon?
All right, this one's from Fred Monslau on Patreon. He says, I'm happy to pate for this podcast. I request impressions segment done by the hosts. Okay, that's very straightforward.
Okay. Well,
something to think about.
An impression segment, huh? I guess we could do some impressions. I don't know very good at impressions.
No.
The only thing I could do is the Bill Cosby and the Mike Jacob on the right. All right. Let's go to some of these YouTube comments. Donovan, you read that first one.
This one is from Lonely Island, which I assume has to be the Lonely Island.
It's got to be.
It says, I miss the horror friends.
The horror friends.
All right.
I don't understand, but you know.
All right. So this happens frequently on my YouTube channel. I made a short film / sketch back in 2003 called Horror Friends. And it was a mock-up sitcom, kind of like Friends, with all the horror film, slasher film villains hanging out playing poker. And this thing has I think it's close to 5 million views or something now, which isn't a lot for YouTube. But literally every time I post a new video, I get one of these comments. I miss the horror friends. And they ask for new episodes. It was never meant to be a serial. It was a joke. Anyway, thank you, though. I'm glad you appreciate Horror Friends, even, what is it, 15 years later? It's crazy.
15 years. Oh, my goodness.
Let's not think about it.
How old are we?
Too old to be doing a podcast.
Speak for yourselves.
All right, I'll read this next comment. He says, I'm so glad you guys are back. That's true. We were on hiatus for a little while. I miss you in a totally platonic way. When I get some monies, I will buy some swag to prove it. Oh, well, thank you, Justin.
Smiley face.
From Justin Hack. Smiley face. Yeah, thank you. We got some swag. Some swag.
What a hack.
What a hack.
We're still working on those wooden
ways.
cereal bowls too, so.
All right. What's that last comment say there, Donovan?
It's from Eric Butler, and it says, used to tow to Wait, what? Used to tow... Okay, wait. I'm going to get through this. Used to tote a 250-pound guy on my...
You can't get through it.
I can't do it. Wait. Jon Cipiti is waiting. Used to tote a 250-pound guy on my back in prison. ... Thought I'd join a fire team after 4 years. ... After half a mile, he'd start bitching about my razor sharp shoulder. Do you want me to finish
I'll finish it.
Wait, I got this.
All right.
After half a mile, he'd start bitching about my razor sharp shoulders and his nuts. ... Good times. Jordan Crowder and crew rocks like Metallica. Wait, is this the Jaws author guy?
No, it's not.
Oh man, I
Eric
don't know.
Butler.
Completely caught me off guard.
I think that's my favorite comment so far.
He's talking about rucking, and I think he's comparing carrying a 250-pound guy is no easy task.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Congrats to you. Hey, maybe you're ready for rucking. If you want to join us, obviously next March 16th, you can. There's a link in the show notes.
Wait, Eric, if you are listening to this, can you put this to music and make it our new theme song? Because that might be a top of the charts.
It feels like it's got to have some brass.
Let's get Jay-Z to sing it. I think it'll make sense.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Jon Cipiti, the film director of the documentary film, The Dating Project. Scofflaws, I wanted to take a second to talk to you about Patreon. Now, if you've never heard of Patreon, basically it's a platform for creators, for patrons who are fans of a given creator to help support their creation. So we have a Patreon page for the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. You could support the show for as little as $1 an episode, which is like what? This is just cheaper than a Starbucks coffee, right? So maybe give up one. Why does everyone always do that? They say it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. Okay, what else do you spend $1 on? Maybe it's cheaper than buying Q-tips, Maybe you don't need Q-tips for the month, Maybe this month you avoid Q-tips, right? I don't know. I mean, I hear they're bad for you anyway, but maybe that's not true. I don't. Maybe don't sacrifice anything related to health for the $1 an episode. But Patreon is great because you, the patron, also gets rewards for joining the Patreon. So examples of stuff that we have are extended interviews and outtakes, stuff that gets cut out of the episode that you don't hear for time's sake, because we try to keep a tight, entertaining show, and sometimes there is some gold that doesn't make the final cut. So you get to listen to some of that. Also, you get behind-the-scenes videos, photos, and bonus episodes. For example, we did a bonus episode at the Big Shave West, which was a lot of fun. So more of those type of things are coming, as well as monthly live video hangouts where you can interact with us in person, which is a lot of fun. We've done a couple of free ones to test it out, and it's been a lot of fun. We get to talk with the listeners in real time and get to know them, and they get to ask questions, and it's always a good time. And here's the pièce de résistance is when we hit our goal mark, we are launching a whole new movie review podcast, a Gentleman Scofflaw movie review podcast. Since we're all of us on the show are writers and filmmakers, and that's our background. We love movies. We're going to go through a catalog of what we think are either gentleman or Scofflaw-esque movies. So if you join, you'll get that show as well. Everyone who joins on Patreon at any one of the tiers, even at the $1 an episode, gets a free Gentleman Scofflaw vinyl sticker, which is super cool. It's like a full color sticker. It's really sticky. You could stick it on, anything you want to stick it on. Also, you'll get thanked on the air for your support. So check out patreon.com/gentscofflaw, or you could go to gentlemanscofflaw.com and click the support link on our menu, and it'll take you right there. We look forward to seeing you on Patreon, and thank you for supporting the show. All right. I'm excited to have this next guest. A mutual friend, but Donovan knows him better.
Yeah, we've worked on several projects together, and we are. I'm not tempted to say the best of friends because apparently that's not really in anymore. So I'm just gonna say we're good friends.
Oh, well, we'll have to fact check that with him. Jon Cipiti, filmmaker, director of The Dating Project. How you doing, man?
I am doing very well. Thank you guys for having me. And I can confirm Mr. Fowler's comments. I'd go so far as to say great friends, actually.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You're taking it to the next level. I'm getting a little antsy here.
I don't know. You guys gotta. We'll talk about this.
We're gonna have to have a talk.
You guys got to define the relationship. I don't know if that'll come up, but
only if it happens within 90 minutes. You'll get that reference in like 20 minutes.
All right. Let's talk about the Dating Project documentary. I've seen clips of it. Donovan's seen all of it. Yep. And it's very interesting. Let's talk about what it is and what was the genesis of this project.
So the Dating Project is very much a labor of love. We started this film 3 years ago now. And really the genesis comes from my two incredible producers, Megan Harrington and Catherine Fowler Sample now, which that's an interesting story as well. Started the film single and is now married, but that's an
so in
entirely
other words,
story.
if you want to find somebody, just start making a movie. That's the moral of that story.
That's the thesis of our. No, I'm just kidding. But it started a while back. And it really came from a big cry that Catherine and Megan were hearing, especially in their communities and just all over media, in circles everywhere. Everybody seemed to be really frustrated with dating. Everybody was super frustrated with dating and how people were going about it. And they started to listen to that a bit more and do a lot of research. And it turned out it wasn't just people locally around them talking about it. It turns out everybody is really frustrated with it. And it's really interesting because one thing we touch on, but for the first time, really ever, 50% of America is single. And so they started to look into, why is that? Why are people so frustrated? And realizing that dating has changed so much over the years, and not all for the better. Some for the better, some for the worse. And we really wanted to take a look at why is that, and what does that look like now?
Well, that's crazy. It's funny because I was talking with Lacey the other day. It's like, I don't know what I'd do if I had to go jump into the dating scene nowadays. Like, it seems like it would be
probably
such a
get on Grindr or something.
Yeah, I mean, we met kind of non-conventionally through like some projects I was working on, and she reached out to me online, and then we met in person, all that stuff. But conventionally, like asking somebody out on a date nowadays, like it's touchy. It seems. I don't know. That's just
there seems to be a lot of pressure, like undue pressure on both sexes. Regarding, like, I don't know. It just seems like people get very self-conscious over everything, and that's why you see more like interaction through apps and stuff like that. But
robots,
yeah. What are the kids are into these days?
It was really interesting to find out that a lot of people aren't just frustrated with how dating is going and what dating looks like today and how things have changed, and the technology has changed and the way you can date has changed, but a lot of people just don't know how to date. And that was one thing that was really interesting to find out along the way, is that the whole model of it has just changed, and a lot of people were kind of left confused by what does that mean. So when we started this project, we wanted to take a really comprehensive look at dating from a lot of different points of view. We wanted, obviously, male and female point of view. We wanted all around the country, different cities, what it looks like. We wanted diversity. We wanted to just get different cultural views. And so we decided to incorporate that into the subjects that we followed. We followed two subjects, a guy and a girl at Boston College in their freshman year. We followed a woman in her 20s and living in Chicago. We followed a woman in her 30s working and living in New York City. And then we followed a guy in his 40s living in Santa Monica. And it was a really interesting group of people to ask a lot of the same questions to, starting at the age of like 18 all the way to somebody in their 40s, and see what does that look like? Where is this discourse? How do these views change over time, but also generation to generation? And, somebody who's 18 now at college, how is dating different than it was for somebody in their 40s now who is 18? And those were our subjects, kind of exploring this topic of what is dating and what does that look like. But so we also followed a lot of, we interviewed a couple different experts on dating as well. And one of the main experts we followed throughout this film was Carrie Cronin. She's a professor at Boston College, and she's famous because she talks about dating. And on a college campus, turns out that's a very, very popular topic. And one thing that Carrie Cronin does is she does this thing called the dating assignment. And this is fascinating. So in one of her classes, she would give her students this thing called the dating assignment. And it was originally, when she gave it, you had to do it to pass the class, which terrified a lot of people. But essentially what it is you have to ask someone out on a date in person. You can't text them, can't call them. You have to ask them out in person, which that already blows a lot of people's minds.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then on the date, there's some guidelines. The date has to be under 90 minutes during the daytime, under $10, so a cup of coffee, ice cream, something like that. No physical interaction besides an A-frame hug. So shoulders in, butts out.
Butts out.
And,
Butts out.
And no drugs or alcohol. And this way of dating, it kind of seems simple when you outline it like that.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes against everything that students in college are doing right now. But I think culture in general, and in the film, we go through her class and we hear her giving the assignment, and then we interview some of the students about that, and they are terrified by it. They're absolutely terrified about the idea of going up to somebody and asking them on a date.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because through that process, we realize that there's this sense of, I think, vulnerability that's been lost when you have to go up to somebody in person and say, "Hey, will you go on a date with me?" That's different than if you are at a party in the dark and you don't know who they are. There's this almost sense of fake vulnerability that's lost. And it's just a really, really fascinating assignment.
Well, and I'd imagine like intimacy as well. I mean, it's like there is something like, I mean, in order to sort of eventually become like intimate with somebody, you have to like kind of be a little upfront with them about the fact that, hey, I'm attracted to you, you want to get a cup of coffee. I mean, it's like, then you're not, I feel like so much of the time people are dancing around the issue. Yeah. And that's why you have like a lot of, like our good friend Brett McKay over at Art of Manliness wrote like an article that called like how to stop hanging out with women or something like that. And that's
made
like
a video about that back when I worked for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that. Yeah. And it's like that's a tendency amongst young men these days, because I think like they're afraid like, well, how's this going to make me look? Am I going to fall flat on my face? When in reality, like taking that risk, like to actually ask somebody out and sort of almost make that investment is actually the best thing you could build a relationship on. So I that was one thing I definitely took away from the doc.
It's funny when I think about dating in school, in college, most of my interactions, at least asking women out on dates, were through text, or in elementary school it was through a note in their desk or something like that. Like it was never like a face-to-face asking someone, because really that's a terrifying idea.
I think I asked most of my dates to dances out like by leaving like something on their doorstep. And I remember once a dog like popped out at me from their gate and I fell in the bushes. But I was like, I'm not sticking around. I'm getting the hell out of here.
That's what you get.
That's crazy. Well, yeah. And one thing that Carrie Cronin tries to do with the assignment, which I think is kind of fascinating, is she tries to teach people that dating isn't as big of a deal as people make it out to be. I think that in our heads, it's like, okay, if I call this a date, if I am intentional about this, it means something so much bigger than it actually is. And the reason why she puts the rules on this of keeping it under 90 minutes, all this stuff, is just so you can get to know somebody. So you can have like an actual interaction and realize that the more simple you keep dating, especially in the beginning, the more simple it becomes. And you realize that, well, breaking up isn't a big deal if we're not super involved. And, it simplifies the process. It allows you to get to know somebody before engaging into a relationship with them. And it's really interesting because some of the students that had asked people on a date through this process, they were beaming, not even going on the date, like going and asking. There was one student, he wasn't one of our subjects, but he was in the class. And there's a little behind the scenes, Luke, that you guys get some insider knowledge on
baseball.
So hold this tight. We were doing an interview with someone and we saw one of the students from Carrie Cronin's class running across the quad, and he was just super excited. And we're like, oh, hey, what's going on? And he did like a little stand-up interview with us. And he's like, I just asked a girl on a date. And he's like smiling ear to ear. And he's like, he can't even get the words out because he can't stop grinning.
Was this the guy who was like, my head's about to like explode or something like that?
Yeah. And he's like, this is a better feeling, because in college, the big thing is the hookup culture. And so he was talking and he's like, I can't even, I just asked her on a date. This is the best feeling ever. He's like, I haven't even been on the date yet, but I can tell you that asking someone on a date is way better than, anything. And you realize
way better than a robot.
Yeah, well, and that's where we segue it into the film. No, I'm just kidding.
Blade Runner 2049.
But it's just really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, how has this kind of hookup culture affected the dating world? I mean, you probably cover that in the documentary, but I mean, you see it everywhere on TV and film and stuff. That was never my world. I was always interested in like actually dating, but I had many friends that were just like hooking up all the time, and it's like that's got to create some bad habits.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely does. Well, the thing about the hookup culture, the reason why it's so popular and prevalent is because it's kind of like a cheap imitation of the real thing. It's one thing that we found through doing this documentary is that what everybody wants is to know someone and to be fully known. Everybody wants meaningful relationships where they're validated. And what the hookup culture does is for a moment, it takes all these parts of you and it says, for this moment, whatever we're doing, I'm validated by you. But it's not validating who you are.
No.
It's validating you and I are each getting something quick. We're getting affirmation. And then you realize that in the hookup culture, there's a numbness that builds up. And you're focused on being affirmed by your appearance, being affirmed by what you can do, and not being affirmed by who you are. So a lot of people leave the hookup culture not knowing who they are. And after a while, they don't know how to date, because all they're used to is the hookup culture. They don't know how to be affirmed as a person rather than as a thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like going to like McDonald's for like a hamburger instead of like going to like a good like steakhouse that like does some good like, real burgers.
Yeah.
Kind of like you just feel crappy afterwards. You're like, oh man, I'm so hungry. I'm just going to stop by McDonald's. And then
think
just like,
this is
the worst advertisement for McDonald's this podcast has ever done. Want to feel like you're a cheap piece of trash? Why don't you go to McDonald's?
Or Burger King, or one of those things.
Burger King, just as long as it's not Wendy's, because that homeless guy that we talked about earlier, he really appreciated that Wendy's.
He did.
Everybody knows Wendy's is tops.
I agree.
Anyways, getting back on track, getting back to dating, got lost in the fast food world there for a little bit. It's been known to happen to me. So, Jon, can you tell us a little bit about the filmmaking process in this regard? Like, I mean, you and I and Jordan we're all in the film industry. Jon, Goodman, who knows what he's into these days?
He's dabbled.
He's dabbled, and he's a connoisseur of cinema. But I mean, the film process, for those who don't know, what kind of goes into making a doc like this?
Every ounce of your life. The thing about the real answer, making a documentary is it's a whirlwind. It's definitely a labor of love, because you start with an idea like dating, and it's massive, and you want to get a good look at it. So this process of filming, you end up with hundreds of hours of footage. You sit down, and our approach for this is, I really wanted each of these characters, I wanted to get to know them like it was a relationship. I wanted to get to know them and build a trust, because we talk about a lot of dating in general is a very personal thing, but we did interview after interview after interview over time, and we really did build a relationship. And so this process was definitely an involved one. And I'd say, just from a documentary point of view, that's kind of how a lot of it goes, is you have to build, like a relationship, you really do have to build a trust and be willing to sacrifice and put a lot of time in. So for the dating project, we did so many interviews with each of them, and found that we ended up not using a lot of stuff, even if it was really good sound bites, because you want to, there needs to be a genuineness to your characters. And I think
because you interviewed me and I wasn't in there. So
Donovan gave us
what
the
happened?
best stuff.
No, actually, I remember
Donovan and Jordan gave us the best stuff, but it was just too good. It's too good of advice.
I remember you interviewing me, and our friend David, the DP, had the brilliant idea of, or I think that you and he collaborated on this, but that like every interview would be set at the same height. So it would it would all match like frames, like you could cut from one interview to the other and it wouldn't be jarring. And unfortunately, I mean, you guys know I'm a pretty tall guy. I mean, I don't need to brag, but I'm a pretty tall guy.
That's why you got cut out.
So I remember it was a late October night, much like tonight, and it was hot. And I remember being asked these questions about dating, and I was trying to give the most philosophical answers I could, while
That's
basically
why you got cut. That's why you got cut.
Well, basically squatting. Like squatting, it was very odd. It was very awkward. I was like squatting and I was giving the answer so that I could fit into the frame, but there was just sweat pouring down my face and into my shirt, and I was just like, "There's no way this is making it in the final cut. I'm done here. I'm done. Give me my crafties and I'll go. I'll just go."
I will say though, for I always hate to say for a documentary, but the film is shot beautifully, because a lot of documentaries can be, not all of them, but some of them could just be kind of nitty gritty. Just get the information in.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like all the shots and everything is just super well composed and very visually compelling, which I think is great. I mean, it makes it so, I mean, it's already interesting subject matter, but then you add that on top of it, it's like the cherry on the cake.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no. And that, so our DP, David Bolin, is a master. And one thing him and I collaborated on really early on was crafting a look for this film that was worthy of the subject, because I agree, a lot of documentaries, you can kind of just, it's like, oh, this is a good story, let's just tell it. But we were definitely fortunate enough to be able to have some control. And also everybody we were working with, the producers, Megan and Catherine, and, on the production side, they were super trusting when we're like, we got to do this or this. And everybody had a really big heart to make this thing, look the way it needed to look.
Yeah.
Well, it paid off. Yeah. You just have to look at the poster. Just look up the poster, and it's like beautiful. Beautiful shots.
It looks like a Richard Linklater movie from the poster. I'm like, this is a documentary?
Oh, boy, dating project. So Jon, tell us what surprised you the most about relationships in general while making this doc, or just about dating. I mean, I feel like, everybody has their takeaway, but being the director and being sort of exposed to all the subject matter, what would you say was kind of the one thing that surprised you the most about it?
Yeah, good question. A lot definitely surprised me in the dating world. I would say, I think one thing that really surprised me was realizing how similar we all are. And, when you think about dating or relationships, it's daunting. It's a huge subject. It's who am I going to date? Who am I going to spend my life with? When am I going to settle down? All this stuff. But we interviewed, we had 5 subjects, but we also did man on the street interviews. We did dozens and dozens and dozens of interviews. And you just realize that everybody, for the most part, people want fulfilling relationships. And I think that that wasn't so much as a surprise, but an affirmation that this topic is important to talk about. I think it also surprised me that not a lot of people feel comfortable talking about dating. We'll talk about the hookup culture. We'll talk about things like that, but not a lot of people feel comfortable saying, I want a meaningful relationship. I want somebody that I can be myself with. And that really surprised me, because it is a lot more comfortable to kind of be like, I don't care. It'll happen when it happens. When you really sit down and talk with somebody for 40 minutes, people are like, yeah, no, I want somebody that loves and cares for me. another thing that surprised me at Boston College is the college students were the most open to dating. And, you know, when you think about college campuses, a big thing that's prevalent is definitely the hookup culture. And I thought that's just because that's what people wanted to do. But it really surprised me because we talked to so many college students and they legitimately have just been they just don't know what dating is.
Mm-hmm.
So the hookup culture, it almost feels like to them, they say, well, this is just how it goes. Like, what is the other option? So Carrie Cronin, every year, in addition to her class, she does a campus-wide dating talk. And we were there in February, and there was a blizzard. There was like probably 5 feet of snow on the ground. It was like a national emergency blizzard. But she had this dating talk. And we were in this gym, and the gym was packed. I think there was 1,100 students in a gym or in an auditorium that could hold nowhere near that. There's people sitting on the stairs. There's people sitting on each other's laps. There's people lined up outside of the fire escape where they couldn't even see her just so that they could hear about dating. And you just really realize that there was a sense of nobody feels like they can talk about it, but they want to hear about it. People want to know how to date.
Wow. Well, and what better way of like, I think like if somebody had given me that assignment in college, like I would have like snapped it up immediately. I would have been like, yeah, best homework ever. You know, like, but especially just given the fact that you're right, that like, it's almost like young people, at the risk of making myself sound old, young people these days, it's like they don't really know, like they don't have so much of a compass with what to do when it comes to that subject. And I mean, if somebody like had a class on it, like you bet I'd be there, you know, like to learn about it and to actually, you know, be given an excuse to go out and kind of do it the old fashioned way, as they say.
Well, it's kind of like, it's a little bit off subject, but the fact that like most colleges, you learn about certain subjects for your degree, but you don't ever really learn that much like about things that are important to life, like other than your like experiences or whatever. But like financial kind of like budgeting, that kind of stuff is a thing you don't really learn in college. Dating, you don't learn like actual communication. And like,
well,
it's like,
and I mean,
these are all things you should learn.
I feel like, I mean, like dating, it's like, okay, it's the biological imperative. I mean, it's like it's when you boil it down, it's basically like, you know, what are human beings supposed to do? It's like we're supposed to like eat, sleep, survive, and get together with other human beings and advance the race.
You've been watching a lot of Discovery Channel, haven't you?
Yeah, I got that David Attenborough, just his loop of a monologue in my mind.
Another really interesting thing that we learned through this process was that this wasn't just about dating relationships, that it was about relationships in general, the way that I interact with my family or my friends or myself. Healthy relationships are at the core of any dating relationships. And I think that oftentimes we're looking out rather than realizing like, wow, I've got some stuff I need to work on, or there might be something here that I need to fix. Because if I can have a great relationship, I know how to treat my brother or my sister or my best friend, you're going to know a lot better how to treat the person that you're going to date one day too. And I think it really comes back to that sense of respect and self-worth.
So, I mean, you talk about how you had a lot of experts on the documentary, but you probably have become an expert in the process of making this film. What advice would you have for our single listeners that are hopping into the dating world, getting their feet wet?
One thing I would say to people listening is that through this process of talking with our subjects, talking with the experts, talking with people on the street, is that one thing that people struggle with is self-worth, I think. And if you are trying to date, the biggest boost of self-confidence is knowing that people like being asked out on dates, that we all have self-worth. And I think dating is really scary, but knowing that everybody is scared about it makes it a little easier to dive into it. So The advice that I would give to someone is do the dating assignment. Ask someone on a date, because if somebody says no, that's fine. There are billions of people in the world, and not everybody is going to say no.
Just make sure that you stick to that A-frame hug, because we all know how babies are made. It's when
6 inches. If people want to find out more about the documentary, how can they do that?
So if people want to find out more about the film, they can go to www.thedatingprojectmovie.com, and we have the trailer. We have lists of festivals we're going to be at. You can sign up to get updates when it's going to be released. We're going to be at the Heartland Film Festival in about a week and a half. Yeah, and so you can buy tickets to that. Any Indiana listeners, come on down, check it out at the Heartland Film Festival.
Yeah, that's a great film festival. They've been around for a while. They do some good work.
They do it right.
They do.
Those Indiana people, am I right? Come on down.
Salt of the earth, those Indiana people.
I have no knowledge of Indiana people. I'm so sorry to all our Indiana listeners. You guys do NASCAR, right? I suppose.
All right, you're just offending everyone this episode.
I'm so
Donovan.
sorry.
You're kicked off. No more podcast for you.
And my microphone is up.
Thank you, Jon, for coming on, and we'll have to have you on for future projects. I want to see, what you do with, as a director going on from here.
Yeah, well, I really loved being on, and I would love to come on in the future. Really excited to talk about this project and looking forward to people seeing it.
Hey, this part of the show is brought to you by Phoenix Shaving. If you like to shave and you are a man or a woman, I mean, some women are hairy. That's all right. That's okay. No judgment. But if you're a guy that likes to shave and appreciates the finer things in life, go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave. That link helps support the show, and you could check out some of Douglas Smythe's amazing shaving soaps, aftershave colognes. You'll be blown away at all the stuff he has. Scents for days. He is like the Walter White of artisan soap making. He's got this lab basically there in Phoenix, Arizona, where he creates his soaps and he cures them. It's an independent business. You're not giving your money to all those guys that are ripping everybody off with razors. Right now, you can get some wet shaving starter packs. So it has everything you need to get started wet shaving. You can get sets that have the safety razor, the brush, the soap, the aftershave. Tons of great scents to pick from. I've mentioned before, one of my favorites is Tombstone. Also, they have Sundown, which is like a classic barbershop scent. They've got Cavendish, which smells like pipe tobacco, which is amazing. I tell you, I've been using the stuff, and I don't get any razor burn or razor bumps anymore. This stuff is amazing, especially the aftershave. It just removes all irritation, bumps, redness. It's like I've never looked so dapper in my life, and that's thanks to Phoenix Shaving. So go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave and stop being a slave to the cartridge razor shave. All right. Another great guest there with
the best,
the Sip,
the best of guests.
Does he go by the Sip? I feel like that
actually,
would be.
we do call him Sip. For if you're very special in his life, Sippy Cup.
Sippy Cup.
That's actually
I prefer
not what we call him.
I'm sure he loves that going out onto the airwaves. You know what time it is, guys? It's time to announce our winner of the Phoenix Shaving Aftershave and Cologne giveaway.
Heyo!
All right, let's get a little drum roll going. I can't hold my tongue right now. And the winner of the Black Bot Aftershave is Baby Nomeo. Oh, I get it, right? Isn't there like a...
I like it.
Was it the reference
Baby Nomeo? I don't think it's a reference to anything.
It's not like Little Romeo? That's what I was thinking. Little Romeo.
Maybe he's getting creative.
Baby Nomeo. All right, you win this. Keep an eye out for a message from us trying to get your address to send this to you. Yeah. And next week we are giving out we're giving out it's called First Dew. What does that smell like, Donovan?
It smells like Ooh, wow. That is Spanish, moss, hydrosol, rosewater, and other things. But it smells like if you just rescued a very pretty lady from a burning building and you had a healthy dose of musk and smoke about you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and it is a aftershave and cologne that is endorsed by the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation.
I think that if you purchase that cologne, I think they give $2 of every purchase to that association.
A very worthy purchase.
A very worthy
and
cause.
You know what? Actually, I think this is going to be my next cologne when I finish up the that other bottle that I have, because the smell is great and it's always good to support the first responders.
There you go. All right. So
I'm
if you're
still
interested
on CAD, and I like it so much. I'm afraid to try something new.
Oh. Well,
sounds like you got some.
It's both a good and a bad thing.
Yeah,
you got to grow, John.
Just got to step
but
out the door.
But you also got to know what you like, right?
That's a conundrum.
Come on.
All right. And if people want to support the show, John, where can they do that? How can they do that?
There's Patreon, and there's our merch shop where we're still working on our, adding new items here and there. We got the flasks and the T-shirts and the spoons and such.
And the buttons and the mugs. So if you're interested in that stuff, get some
yellow
and the pudding and the Discover podcast. That's how every Bill Cosby impression is going to end now.
Guys, we are getting off the politically correct rails here.
It's the Moonshine tonight.
It is the Moonshine.
Yeah. It's that little red bottle.
It's that Wonder Bread soaked in scotch.
Yeah, Justin Hilden, I think he was trying to frame us for something, maybe.
I think he's trying to set us up.
All right.
I hear the cops going up the stairs right now.
All right. John, you are a gentleman and a scofflaw, my friend.
You guys are too.
Donovan, you are a gentleman and a scofflaw, my friend.
Thank you, and drink responsibly.
And you guys have a great week.
This has been the Gentleman Scofflaw Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Visit us on the interwebs at gentlemanscofflaw.com.
Captain says his ice on the river. We ain't getting home if we don't break through. So damn cold, I can't help but shiver. Right